I'm going to be teaching you guys how to shift your motorcycle on the street, meaning that this is going to be a real world scenario. You guys are familiar with the clutch by now, but you're unfamiliar with what to do with it once you're on the street. So when we're in intersections, stop signs, pulling into the gas station, I'm going to try to see if I can find every single scenario for you guys and navigate through it so this way you can see what's what. You may or may not be familiar with this bike, but this is a 240 horsepower monster. Oop, what the heck? Yeah, this has a quick up and down shifter. One thing I do want to mention is that the gears on this are a lot taller than most motorcycles. As I mentioned before, this motorcycle is 240 horsepower. First gear alone does about 92 miles an hour. But I'm going to ride this like I would ride a smaller bike, so this way you can see what's up. Now, without even realizing it, because it's so automatic to me, I'm already in third gear. But in a situation like where I am right now, where I'm coming up to a stop sign, you can still be in third gear or second gear, whichever gear you're in, and then you can use your engine brake to slow you down. I didn't even use my brakes at that time, but now I'm pulling in my clutch, letting the bike slow down on its own while I stop at the red light. Now, while waiting at the red light, first gear is still engaged, and I'm holding onto my clutch fully because obviously if I let it go, it's gonna pop. All right, let's go. So, I'm still in first gear. I don't necessarily have to change because this bike does 92 miles an hour in first gear. But if you're doing 29 miles an hour, at this point, you would be in second gear. Anywhere between 30 to 35 miles an hour, you would probably be in third gear. And this is assuming that you're riding anywhere between a 300, 400 class CC bike up to a 600. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to do anywhere between second and third gear, or maybe fourth for that matter, is because this conserves the most gas. Now I'm in fourth gear. My bike is somewhere around 3,000 RPM, but yours can differ. It's impossible for me to gauge what your RPM levels are going to be because every bike is different, as I mentioned. As an example, if you're riding a 600 class motorcycle, such as a Yamaha R6 or a CBR, those things go all the way up to between 14,000 and 16,000 RPM. You're obviously going to be at a higher RPM. But one way to gauge it is if you get on the throttle and you're getting way too much torque, that means you're too low in the gears. In that case, go up a gear until the amount of torque that you have is lesser. But right now I'm in fourth gear for my bike, doing 57 miles an hour on regular roads like this. This is a perfect amount of torque. I don't need any more. But if I do lower it, so like first gear, second gear, I got torque for days. I'm gonna go back to fifth gear right now because fifth gear and sixth gear, doing 60 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, is pretty much cruising speed. But there's a red light over there. As soon as you see the red light, start going down in gears until you're in third gear or second gear. For me, I'm gonna go down to first gear, but for you, you can stay in second gear. And right about now, go to first, hold your clutch so this way you don't bog down. And yes, I live in California, and lane splitting is allowed. Now, you're going to come in situations where a car darts in front of you or a red light changes really quickly like right now. You're going to have to hold the clutch and bang up in the gears until you're in first gear so this way you can slow down. Otherwise, sometimes you may be in second gear or third gear while you're completely at a stop. So while you're at a stop, don't forget to bang down into first gear, because if you don't, once you take off, you're going to bog down and the bike is going to stall. I'll give you guys an example in the next red light. Here we go. So now I'm in third gear. I'm not going to go down in the gear. I'm just going to stay here, okay? In an unlikely scenario, you're in third gear like I am. While you're at the light, quickly go down into first gear. And if what happened to me happens to you, where you try to go down in a gear and you can't, if you have a quick shifter, sometimes if you let go of the clutch a little bit, it engages into a gear if it's stuck. And then after that, try to go down in a gear, and if it gets stuck again, let go of the clutch a little bit until it engages, and then go back down in a gear. It happens from time to time when you have a quick shifter, but when you don't have a quick shifter, that usually doesn't happen. If for some reason, like as an example right now, I'm gonna stay in second gear, red light, not gonna go anywhere. If for some reason, right, you're in second gear, you don't realize it, oh shit, I'm in second gear, red light changed, all right, give it more gas than usual. If you give it more gas than usual, then your RPM levels will go higher, therefore you're not going to bog down. So don't get too nervous if you're in second gear at a red light, or even third gear for that matter. Just compensate it by revving it a little bit higher. While you're making a right, keep your hand on the clutch just in case you slow down. But once you're past like 10 miles an hour, you gotta let go of that clutch. As a matter of fact, don't even ride the clutch ever. But just in case, keep your hand on it in first gear, because you never know, you may have to slow down really quickly, abruptly I mean. Alright, here's a parking lot we're gonna go into and exit out of. I'm in first gear, holding my clutch, letting the bike slow down on its own, and at the current moment, I'm just rolling. I'm not even giving it throttle, as you can see. The clutch is fully pressed. Now, I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle while letting go of my clutch. I'm still in first gear. And trying to avoid getting hit by the car behind me. While you're pulling into a parking lot and pulling out, always, always, always be in first gear. Here's the gas station. Pretend we're putting in gas. Alright, now we're in first gear, pulling out, still going to be in first gear. You do not go into second gear at all, not when you're taking off. Of course you know that by now, but just drilling it in, letting go of my clutch a little bit. Now that I'm rolling 100%, letting go of the clutch. In a scenario like this, where it's stop and go traffic, stay low in the gears, anywhere between first and third gear depending on your motorcycle. As I mentioned before, if you have a lower CC motorcycle, staying in like second gear, third gear probably makes sense. But in a higher CC motorcycle such as my 1100, then staying in first gear is all you need, because it does up to 92 miles an hour. It's ridiculous, guys, I'm telling you. Anyway, we're going to make a left over here. First gear still, for me at least, but you can be in second gear, assuming you're not riding an 1100 as your first bike, which is ridiculous. Let's get into the highway and I'll show you guys what to do here. Now, I already made a video on how to ride on the highway, but I didn't talk anything about using the clutch, but for this demonstration, I will. Getting into the highway, obviously, you're going to be in first gear. For me, I'm going to shift now into second gear, 40 miles an hour, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, and I'm going to need some torque until I get up to speed with everybody else, so I'm going to stay in fifth. But right about now, I'm 75, 76 miles an hour. I'm going to go all the way up to sixth gear. Now, in a scenario where you need more power, obviously going down one or two gears is going to give you more power. As an example, just like that. As the old saying goes, drop a gear, disappear. Oh yes, I love this bike. Now, cruising speed, whatever cruising speed is for you in your highway. If you live in Texas, that'll be about 100 miles an hour for every car and motorcycle out there, right? But here in California, I think it's about 65, 70, but everybody's doing somewhere around 75 right now, or maybe, and I'm comfortable in sixth gear. The only time you want to go down in gear on a highway is, as I mentioned, you need a little bit more torque. But if you're riding anything above 600, I don't think you even need to go down a gear in order to pass cars. You can comfortably sit in 6th gear and just pass cars after cars, because you're quite literally the fastest thing on the road. But if you want to really disappear, you got to drop a gear. That's where the saying comes from. Like right about now. Now, my boys, I gotta mention one thing, okay? Don't do as I do, just do as I say. Stay in your best behavior while you're on the road. This is not a good example for how you should be riding. I'm just giving you some examples, even though they're terrible examples. Alright, so now I'm gonna show you a little trick. You can do this on any bike, doesn't really matter what cc it is or how much horsepower you have, but I'm going to attempt to use only engine braking to stop my bike almost completely, with the emphasis on almost completely. And if you learn this trick, you'll save yourself a lot of brake pads. So check this out. I'm doing this just as a demo for you guys. I'm in 6th gear, but now I'm going to quickly go down in gears, and the bike is going to slow down on its own because I'm using engine braking. Now I'm in 2nd gear. Now I'm in 1st. You saw how that worked? Now I'm going to do the same exact thing over here to slow myself down. I'm using a little bit of braking from the rear to slow myself down as well. So the rear brake is on your right side, right where your foot is. So now we're in some really quiet streets, and I'm going to be cruising around in 3rd gear. You don't necessarily need to be in 5th or 6th gear, because these streets here only require you to do about 30 miles an hour, 25 to 30, I would say. But we're going to be making a right, so I went down to 1st gear, looking to see if there's any cars. No cars, let's go. So now that I'm cruising, my bike can comfortably cruise in 2nd gear. But as this demonstration, I think 3rd gear is a little bit better for me. Not only do I save gas, but my RPMs are not very high, and therefore I'm also traveling at a rate where it's not very loud. So if you live in a quiet neighborhood like the one I'm in right now, and you don't want to be that loud, you can kick it into 3rd gear. This is perfect cruising speed at 30 to 40 miles an hour. Now I'm chilling, 34 miles an hour, 3rd gear. Yes, I know I'm riding without hands. Once again, don't do as I do, but do as I say. Stop sign's coming up right over here, and in this stop sign you're going to go down into 1st gear, but you're going to go down into 1st gear starting now. This is when you start doing it. Ah shit, I forgot to go down into 1st gear. No I didn't. See, I'm giving you guys an example. I'm in 3rd gear, but I'm going to attempt to take off because sometimes this kind of stuff happens. Now remember what I mentioned before. Give it more gas than you normally give it. So raise the RPMs really high and you're not going to bog down. You saw how that worked? The bike didn't bog down or anything because I gave it more RPM. So in case you're in 3rd gear, something happens, you had to slow down really abruptly, there was a car in front of you, whatever the situation is, just give it a lot of gas and then let go of the clutch slowly as the bike begins to move. Slowly let go of the clutch and then off on your way you go, just like I did. Going into 2nd gear, making a right turn. Going into 1st gear, I'm gonna make a right turn right over here. No need to hold the clutch down while you're making turns. As long as your bike is moving 10 to 15 miles an hour or over, holding the clutch is unnecessary unless you want to slow down or shift up or down in a gear. Going down into 2nd, going down into 1st, we're going to go into this parking lot. holding my clutch while using my brakes to slow myself down slowly, but still coasting. I'm not using my throttle until right now, and I'm still in first gear, but I'm feathering the clutch to get as much speed as I need. Now, if you're letting go of your clutch and your bike bogs down, that means you got to give it a little bit more gas. That's the trick. In a parking lot like this, don't go up into second gear. It's totally unnecessary, because you're gonna have to stop at any second, especially if a car comes in front of you, because these days people just pull out of nowhere. Anyway, let's go into the gas station because I need some gas. Staying in a first gear, obviously. You're not gonna go up in gear in a gas station or in any parking lot for that matter. Completely unnecessary, and you're asking for trouble just in case something happens and boom, you stalled the bike in second gear, you forgot that you're in second, you start it, you try to run it, you don't give it enough gas, it stalls on you and bike falls. This is a video that was highly requested of me, and I hope it answered all your questions, but if it didn't, leave a comment down below, and if you have any other video ideas, I'm willing to make them. And until the next episode, peace.